There are moments in life when everything seems to collapse at once. When dreams shatter, relationships crumble, plans go astray, and all we're left with is the brokenness we never asked for. In those moments, it can feel like the world has turned its back on us, that we've been forgotten by the very force that once gave us strength. But what if I told you that it's in this very breaking that your rebuilding begins? That God is not absent in the ashes, but present, purposeful, and already crafting the foundation of something far greater than what was lost. Before we begin, I want you to truly absorb this message. Watch this video until the very end, because every word carries the weight of restoration, and each sentence is part of the healing you've been waiting for. I invite you to write your warmest wishes and 77 in the comments below. This isn't just about speaking hopes into the air. It's about aligning your energy with the frequency of divine transformation. When you speak your wishes, you don't just ask, you awaken. And that awakening sends ripples through the universe that return to you in miraculous ways. Rebuilding doesn't begin with a hammer and nails. It begins with surrender. It begins in the moment you let go of trying to force your life to make sense, and instead start trusting that there is a deeper meaning behind the mess. God sees the devastation you've walked through, and He's not turning away from it. He's turning it into something meaningful. The pain you felt wasn't random. The heartbreak didn't arrive to destroy you. Every loss, every delay, every denial, none of it happened to punish you. It happened to position you. The ashes you're standing in are not the end. They are the soil for a new beginning. Like a forest fire that clears the ground for fresh growth, the destruction in your life has cleared away what could no longer support you. It may have looked like rejection, but it was protection. It may have felt like abandonment, but it was redirection. When God starts to rebuild, He doesn't patch up the old. He prepares you for what never could have existed in your former state. And this rebuilding process is sacred. It's not rushed. It's not loud. Often it's done in silence, in the hidden moments of tears, in the quiet whispers of hope, in the stillness of your waiting. God rebuilds brick by brick, soul by soul. He reconstructs the pieces you thought were permanently lost and places them in a design far more beautiful than anything you could have imagined. And what you thought was over becomes the birthplace of your transformation. People might look at your life and see ruin, but God sees resurrection. Others may have written you off, but God has already written you into a story of victory, a story where the broken becomes beautiful, where the forgotten becomes chosen, where the last becomes first. You are not a remnant of your past. You are the raw material for a future that can only be forged through fire. In this moment, you may still be standing in the smoke, unsure of what remains. But take a deep breath, because the very act of breathing is proof that your story isn't finished. The breath within you is the spark of divine resilience. With every inhale, you are inhaling the possibility of redemption. With every exhale, you are releasing the weight of what was. This is what rebuilding looks like. It's alive. It's present. It's already happening. Don't let the illusion of loss blind you to the reality of rebirth. So many blessings begin where we feel most broken. It's not a coincidence that your greatest strength often emerges from your greatest sorrow. God doesn't rebuild you in spite of your ashes. He rebuilds you through them. And that's why you don't have to wait for everything to be perfect to move forward. You can move with the pieces, and God will do the assembling. Sometimes we think healing means forgetting, but God doesn't rebuild by erasing your past. He redeems it. He takes the same road that led to your pain and turns it into a pathway for others to find light. That's the kind of rebuilding you're stepping into. One that is not only for you, but through you, so your life becomes a living testimony of what's possible when the divine takes over. And yes, people may not understand the shift that's happening in you. That's okay. The rebuilding process is often misunderstood because it's not just external, it's internal. You might feel like you're losing people, losing opportunities, losing time. But what you're actually gaining is alignment. What you're stepping into is not just a new life. It's the one you were always meant to live, stripped of illusion, rich in truth. Stay with this. The discomfort you feel is not a sign to stop. It's confirmation that the old structures are falling away. Trust the collapse. Trust the quiet. Trust the confusion. Because on the other side of it is clarity, order, purpose, and peace. These moments of uncertainty are birthing something divine. They are making space for the miraculous to unfold. If you're wondering why it had to happen this way, why the pain, why the detour, why the loss, know that some things had to fall apart for your soul to rise. Some relationships had to end so you could meet the version of yourself that could thrive alone. Some dreams had to die so you could dream again with divine alignment. And some parts of you had to be dismantled so you could finally see your worth beyond what you do or what you have. This rebuilding is not just external change, it's identity transformation. You are being reintroduced to your divine essence. You are being reshaped, not by society's expectations, but by sacred truth. And every day that you choose to show up, even in the middle of the ruins, is a declaration to the universe. I'm still here. I'm still willing. I still believe. And belief is the beginning of everything. It doesn't require certainty. It just needs willingness. A mustard seed of faith is enough to start the rebuilding. The willingness to rise again is enough to initiate momentum. You don't need all the answers. You don't need a flawless plan. You just need to decide that your past won't hold your future hostage. Let the ashes speak of your survival, but let your actions speak of your surrender to the divine blueprint. Because what's coming is not a replacement, it's a resurrection. What's being built is not a replica of what was, but a revelation of what can be. And the foundation? It's faith. It's trust. It's your yes to the unknown. When everything falls apart, it's natural to search for reasons. We ask ourselves what we did wrong, what we missed, or how we could have stopped the chaos. But not every crumbling is meant to be prevented. Some are meant to be experienced. Because through the rubble, we gain new eyes. Eyes that don't just see what was, but begin to envision what can be. That's what happens in the hands of God. Nothing is wasted, and everything is transformed. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are not being forgotten. You are being formed. Every storm that tore through your life was allowed for a reason, and not a single gust of wind came without permission. When God starts to rebuild, He doesn't simply put back what was lost. He creates a new version of you that can carry more, love deeper, stand stronger, and rise higher than before. You may not recognize yourself in this season. That's okay. You're not supposed to. You're in the middle of becoming. You're shedding layers of fear, dependency, doubt, and illusion. The version of you that once survived is giving way to the version that will now thrive. And as uncomfortable as it may feel, that inner deconstruction is the only way the real you can step forward. The process of rebuilding doesn't follow the timelines of this world. It doesn't always come with progress you can measure or proof you can point to. Sometimes, the rebuilding is happening in places no one sees, in the stillness of your soul, in the quiet corrections of your thoughts, in the subtle shifts of your energy. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. Growth often goes unnoticed until it becomes undeniable. What you thought you needed may no longer align with where you're headed. And that dissonance is not failure, it's divine redirection. When God rebuilds, He clears out everything that can't sustain your future. That includes relationships that feel comfortable but drain your spirit, habits that once helped you cope but now block your clarity, and environments that feel familiar but stifle your growth. Sometimes it hurts to let go of what we've known, even when it's no longer serving us. But true healing requires release. You can't bring the weight of your past into the blueprint of your new beginning. The ashes you carry don't belong in the foundation of your future. You must lay them down. You must decide that freedom is worth more than familiarity, that peace is more valuable than people-pleasing, that becoming who you were meant to be is more important than remaining who they expect you to be. You may feel like you're starting from nothing, but the truth is, you're starting from wisdom, from resilience, from experience, from faith. And these are stronger building blocks than anything you had before. You're not building alone. You are building in partnership with a force greater than yourself. One that knows the entire map, even when all you see is a blank page. The pain you experienced broke you open, but it didn't break you apart. There's a big difference. Being broken open means you're now more receptive to the truth, to purpose, to the divine whispers that were always there but muffled by noise. You're able to hear more, feel more, connect more. You've become a vessel for light in ways you never imagined. That is the miracle hidden in the breaking. And when you look back, you'll understand why certain things didn't last. You'll see why some prayers weren't answered the way you hoped. You'll understand that God wasn't withholding. He was weaving your pain into purpose, weaving your waiting into wisdom, weaving your losses into a life that can hold joy without breaking under the weight of it. The things you thought were delays were actually doors being built in the dark. Doors that would lead you to places no one thought you'd ever reach. But God knew. He always knew. That's why He let the old crumble, so the new could rise in its place, so that when people look at your life, they don't just see survival, they see sacred restoration. Don't be afraid of starting over. In fact, don't call it starting over. Call it starting deeper, because this time, you're not building on shaky foundations. You're building on trust, on spiritual maturity, on inner strength. You're building on a quiet knowing that even when nothing makes sense, you are still supported by a divine hand that never lets go. And yes, there will still be moments of doubt. That's natural, but doubt doesn't cancel destiny. Your doubt is not a wall. It's an invitation to go deeper into your trust, into your knowing, into your inner guidance. Rebuilding isn't about being fearless. It's about choosing to move forward even when you are afraid. It's about holding the vision when the evidence is missing. It's about staying rooted when the winds of uncertainty blow. What you're rebuilding is not just a life, it's a legacy. Every healed wound, every surrendered tear, every brave step forward is part of a bigger picture. One that will echo beyond your lifetime. One that will inspire others to rise from their own ashes. That's why your journey matters so much. You are the living proof that ashes don't mean the end. They mean transformation has begun. The world may celebrate the strong, the successful, the seemingly unshaken. But heaven celebrates the ones who rebuild, the ones who keep rising, the ones who choose faith over fear, purpose over pain, and surrender over control. You are among them. You are one of them. You are rising. Let this be your reminder that it's okay to grieve what you've lost, but don't forget to celebrate what's being built. Because even in the ruins, there's reason to hope. Even in the silence, there's movement. And even when all seems still, heaven is at work on your behalf. The blueprints are unfolding. The structure is coming together. The miracle is in motion. One of the most powerful realizations in the rebuilding process is that what's forming now doesn't have to resemble what came before. In fact, the beauty of divine reconstruction is that it often exceeds the patterns we've grown used to. We spend so much time trying to replicate old dreams, patch together past relationships, or recreate familiar comfort zones. But God is not calling you to a replica. He's inviting you into something revolutionary. It's time to open your heart to a new kind of joy, a new rhythm of peace, and a new alignment with your purpose. The life you're rebuilding isn't meant to fit the mold you once knew. It's meant to expand beyond your old definitions. That's why it feels unfamiliar. That's why it challenges you. That's why it humbles you. Because this is not just about building back. It's about building beyond. You might look around and see others racing ahead, achieving, winning, thriving, and you wonder why you're still in the thick of the process. But don't measure your timeline by someone else's chapter. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. Your journey has its own sacred schedule. And the deeper your reconstruction, the stronger your foundation. What's taking time is taking shape. This isn't about superficial fixes. This isn't about pretending to be okay. It's about rebuilding from the inside out. Real transformation happens in places the world can't see. When your inner world shifts, when you start choosing peace over panic, forgiveness over resentment, clarity over chaos, that's when your external world begins to mirror the healing that's taking root within you. There will be people who don't understand your process. They might question your choices, criticize your silence, or distance themselves from your transformation. Let them. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into the new. Some people were only assigned to your previous chapter, and trying to carry them into your next season will only weigh you down. If God is rebuilding your life, He's also redefining your circle. Trust the rearrangement. Rebuilding also requires intentional stillness. The world will try to pull you into busyness, into distraction, into the hustle of pretending all is fine. But the sacred work of restoration cannot be rushed. You need moments of quiet to hear your own soul speak again. You need space to reconnect with your inner compass. You need grace to simply be without pressure to produce. In these moments of stillness, you begin to see that the ashes weren't just remnants. They were the signs that something new was about to emerge. And what is emerging is more than recovery. It's revelation. You're seeing yourself differently. You're hearing the whispers of destiny. You're starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, there's more for you than what you've survived. This belief, even when it's fragile, is fuel. It's what keeps you going when progress seems slow. It's what holds your hand when fear wants to pull you back. Belief doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be consistent. A quiet, steady voice inside that says, I don't know how, but I know I'm being led somewhere better. And better doesn't always mean bigger. It means truer, more aligned, more peaceful, more authentic. It means waking up without anxiety as your default. It means no longer dimming your light to make others comfortable. It means being at home in your own skin, even if the world hasn't caught up with your change yet. One of the greatest gifts of this rebuilding is the clarity that comes with it. The clarity to recognize what no longer fits. The discernment to say no without guilt. The strength to walk away from anything that dishonors your spirit. When you rebuild with God, you don't just gain back what was lost. You gain vision. And vision is power. This clarity allows you to begin choosing differently. You no longer seek out the familiar for comfort. You begin choosing what's unfamiliar but healthy. You say yes to rest, yes to boundaries, yes to healing, yes to wholeness. You stop abandoning yourself for the sake of belonging. You stop explaining your worth. You stop waiting for others to approve the life you're now claiming. Because here's the truth. Your life doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be impressive to be impactful. Your journey, with all its twists, pauses, breaks, and comebacks, is sacred. And the way God rebuilds is not through spectacle, it's through intimacy. It's in the details. The daily decisions, the tiny wins, the moments you choose truth over illusion, love over fear. This is where it all starts to shift. Not with fireworks, but with faithfulness. Not with applause, but with alignment. Your commitment to healing is your declaration to the world and to yourself that you believe in something bigger than the pain. That you believe in restoration, even when the evidence is scarce. That you believe God is still writing your story. And He is. Even now, in the places you can't see. Even now, when you're tired. Even now, when the progress feels invisible. He is rebuilding, brick by unseen brick, layer by sacred layer, not to return you to who you were, but to reveal who you've always been beneath the debris. This is your return, your rising, your reintroduction. Rebuilding isn't always marked by celebration. Sometimes it looks like tears falling quietly at midnight. Sometimes it feels like waking up and trying again, even when your soul is tired. It's not always a bold sprint. It's often a slow, steady walk through the unknown. But every step you take in faith is a seed planted in sacred ground, and that seed will grow. Even if right now you can't see it sprouting, this is the part of your journey where silence is sacred. You may not have the words to describe what you're going through. You may feel isolated, as if no one truly understands. But the silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something important is developing within you. A new sense of identity, a deeper connection to your intuition, a more profound awareness of what truly matters. In this silence, something holy is taking shape. God isn't rebuilding you to fit the expectations of the world. He's rebuilding you to carry purpose, to live fully, to walk in power. And often, that kind of reconstruction happens behind closed doors, where the world can't applaud, but your spirit can finally breathe. There's freedom in knowing that your process doesn't need validation. It needs space, it needs truth, it needs you, showing up for yourself even when it feels uncomfortable. Rebuilding means reclaiming your voice. It means no longer apologizing for who you are becoming. It means honoring your growth, even if it confuses the people who knew the older version of you. As you rebuild, you'll notice that some conversations feel too shallow, some rooms too small, some mindsets too limited. That's not pride, it's expansion. You are growing beyond what used to contain you. Let that growth happen. You are not difficult for requiring more. You are not broken because you desire deeper peace. You are not wrong for needing a new kind of love, a new rhythm of living, a higher level of integrity in your relationships. These desires are not a result of ego. They're signs that your soul is awakening to its divine worth. As God rebuilds your life, He's also refining your standards. Don't lower them to fit in. Honor them to rise up. And in the midst of that rising, you will be tested. You will be tempted to go back to what felt safe, to the relationship that offered comfort but not growth, to the job that paid well but drained your spirit, to the habits that numbed the pain but blocked your healing. But this time, you'll feel the disconnect more clearly. You'll sense the misalignment more intensely. That's your soul speaking. Listen to it. Your soul is wise. It remembers the promise, even when your mind forgets. It knows the way forward, even when the path looks foggy. And as God rebuilds your life, He awakens this inner wisdom more and more. You begin to see that every detour, every heartbreak, every closed door was actually guiding you to something more aligned, something more you. This is the season where you stop chasing and start choosing. You stop begging and start creating. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you and start walking with the awareness that you were never without power. You simply needed to reclaim it. And that reclamation happens every time you say yes to your healing, your growth, your truth. You are no longer who you used to be. And that's a good thing. You've seen too much, felt too deeply, endured too many storms to pretend otherwise. You've earned your wisdom. You've carried your weight. And now, it's time to walk lighter. Not because your life is easier, but because your soul is freer. That freedom is your reward for the courage it took to keep going. Not everyone will recognize the new you. Some will expect you to shrink back into your old patterns. Others will resist your growth because it reminds them of where they're still stuck. That's not your burden to carry. Your only job is to keep walking forward. To keep building, even when it feels slow. To keep trusting, even when it's lonely. To keep believing, even when it's quiet. You are not here to relive old pain. You are here to create new peace. And that peace doesn't come from control. It comes from release. Releasing the timelines, the expectations, the pressure to prove. Let all of that go. Rebuilding isn't about performance. It's about presence. The more present you become in your healing, the more powerful your restoration becomes. And the truth is, your life doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. It needs to be real, honest, rooted, aligned. That's where the magic is. That's where God meets you. Not in your flawless moments, but in your surrendered ones. When you lay down the need to impress and pick up the willingness to be transformed, that's where the real rebuilding begins. This isn't the end of your story. It's the sacred turning point. The moment you stop looking backward and start leaning into what's ahead. The moment you choose to believe that nothing is too far gone. That even in the midst of the ashes, a masterpiece is rising. And that masterpiece is you. There will come a moment in your rebuilding journey where you begin to realize you are no longer fighting for survival. You are preparing to thrive. This is not about holding on anymore. It's about opening up. You're not just trying to keep things from falling apart. You're allowing something entirely new to come together. And it's happening not in spite of what you've been through, but because of it. The things that once broke you are now the very things shaping your strength. You're beginning to recognize that what you thought were obstacles were actually invitations. Invitations to grow, to stretch, to shift, to evolve. This kind of growth isn't visible at first. It won't be obvious to the people around you. But deep inside, you'll feel it. You'll notice it in how you respond differently, in how you protect your peace, in how you love yourself without conditions. This is the transformation that happens when God is at work. Not just changing your situation, but changing your identity. You're no longer defined by what happened to you. You're not tied to the old version of yourself that was buried under disappointment. You've shed the need to be perfect, to be accepted, to be understood. What matters now is that you are whole, on your terms, in your timing, with your truth. As you continue to rebuild, you'll find new energy rising from places that were once drained. You'll have clarity where you once had confusion. You'll begin to move with a sense of direction that doesn't rely on outside approval. Because the compass you're using now is internal. It's divine. It's rooted in something eternal and unshakable. There may still be days when you doubt yourself, when you feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on your shoulders. But in those moments, remember this: God is not asking you to carry it all. He's asking you to trust. He's asking you to walk, one step at a time, even if your legs still tremble. He's asking you to believe that where you are right now is not a punishment, but preparation. It's easy to look at the ashes and feel like you're behind, like everyone else has moved on while you're still trying to find your footing. But what they don't see is the internal reordering that's happening within you. The sacred realignment that's guiding you out of survival and into sovereignty. The shift from brokenness to boldness. The world may have underestimated you, but that's because they never saw the fire inside. They never witnessed the nights you spent praying for clarity. They don't know the battles you fought in silence. But God knows. And it's that unseen endurance that becomes the foundation for what comes next. A life built not just from desire, but from destiny. You're not going to need to prove anything. Your energy will speak for itself. Your presence will carry a frequency of renewal. You'll walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere, not because you're trying to, but because your spirit is aligned. That's what rebuilding in divine alignment creates. A life that radiates from the inside out. The things that used to trigger you will lose their grip. The fears that held you back will dissolve in the light of your courage. The need to be accepted will fall away, replaced by a deep knowing that you were already chosen. You'll stop chasing closure from those who walked away. You'll stop seeking validation from people who never saw your value. You'll begin to honor your journey without apology. This is where things begin to turn. Not because everything on the outside changes at once, but because everything on the inside already has. And the outer world must eventually reflect the shift that's occurred within. You'll attract differently, speak differently, move differently. You'll stop explaining yourself. You'll stop negotiating your worth. You'll begin to walk as the healed, not the hurting. And from that healed place, you'll create, you'll write, you'll speak, you'll build. Not because you need to prove anything, but because you're full, overflowing with purpose. The fire that once burned everything down is now burning brightly within you as passion, vision, and truth. You've turned your ashes into fuel. That's how powerful your rebuilding has become. People will ask how you did it, how you survived what was meant to crush you. And you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because you now understand that divine hands held you through it all. That grace walked beside you in the fire. That love never left you, even when you questioned everything. And now, here you are, rebuilt, reborn, radiant. You'll start to recognize moments of divine timing, where things align effortlessly, not because you forced them, but because you allowed them. Doors will open. Opportunities will appear. But they will feel different this time. They won't feel like struggle. They'll feel like confirmation. You'll know you're in the right place because peace will be present. Not perfection, peace, and it won't stop there. The rebuilding won't be a single moment. It will be a rhythm, a lifestyle, a continual evolution into deeper truth, higher purpose, fuller joy. You'll no longer live in fear of collapse because you'll know how to rise. You've been through the fire, and now you carry the flame. The beauty of being rebuilt is that you begin to see life differently, not through the lens of scarcity or loss, but through the eyes of purpose. You stop viewing setbacks as endings and start seeing them as sacred pivots. What used to shake you now strengthens you. What used to silence you now fuels your message. You've walked through enough fire to know that what survives the burning is what truly matters. There's a new confidence stirring in you, not the loud kind that demands attention, but the quiet kind that doesn't need to prove anything. It's the kind of confidence that comes from knowing who you are and who you're becoming. It's a calm assurance that says, I don't need to rush. What's mine will find me. What's aligned will stay. What's true will rise. This is a turning point in your rebuilding journey. where you stop clinging to the old and begin reaching for the divine possibilities ahead. You realize that everything that collapsed wasn't a curse. It was clearing the space to finally build from authenticity, from faith, from alignment. This time, what you're building will last, not because it's flawless, but because it's real. You may find yourself craving solitude more often now. That's not isolation. It's intentional retreat. It's sacred protection. The rebuilding season is deeply personal. Not everyone can understand the shifts happening inside of you. That's why silence is so powerful right now. In it, you hear your spirit louder. You hear God clearer. You no longer seek noise to distract you from your pain. You seek presence to anchor you in your truth. And in this sacred quiet, you begin to forgive. Not because the past deserves it, but because your future demands it. You release the bitterness, not to let others off the hook, but to unchain yourself from their energy. You stop rehearsing old wounds. You stop trying to change what cannot be undone. Instead, you bless it. You learn from it. You let it dissolve. Forgiveness is one of the greatest acts of spiritual reconstruction because it clears the debris from your emotional foundation. You can't build something lasting on resentment. You can't grow into love while holding hate. So you let go, not because you're weak, but because you're ready to be free, ready to receive without resistance, ready to rise without anchors. The new you is more discerning, more grounded, more aligned with your inner compass. You no longer run after what looks good. You wait for what feels right. You no longer chase after love. You become it. You no longer force connections. You trust divine appointments. And in that trust, you find peace. In that peace, you find power. The rebuilding continues as you redefine your values. What matters now isn't fame or approval or accumulation. It's integrity, alignment, truth. You'd rather walk alone in authenticity than be surrounded by people who don't see your soul. You'd rather sit in silence than perform for acceptance. You'd rather wait in peace than rush into what isn't meant for you. This version of you cannot be manipulated by flattery or swayed by fear. You've outgrown the need to be liked by everyone. You're here to be aligned, not approved. And that shift in perspective is what accelerates your transformation. Because when you stop trying to be everything for everyone, you finally become everything to yourself. You understand now that boundaries are not walls. They're gates of protection. Saying no isn't rejection. It's direction. Rest isn't laziness. It's a divine strategy. Pausing isn't weakness. It's preparation. These are the truths you've come to honor through this sacred rebuild. And every time you honor them, your soul expands. There's no need to pretend anymore. No need to perform, impress, or explain. You're no longer building a life to meet external expectations. You're building a life that reflects your internal reality. A life where your energy is protected, your values are respected, and your peace is prioritized. That's not selfish. It's spiritual maturity. And while others may not see the full picture yet, that's okay. What's unfolding in your life isn't meant to be understood by everyone. Some won't understand your silence. Some won't recognize your glow. Some won't celebrate your shift. That's not your concern. Your concern is staying aligned with your assignment, focused on your path, rooted in your truth. Because as you keep showing up for yourself, the world will begin to respond. The people who match your frequency will find you. The opportunities that align with your vibration will arrive. You won't have to force anything. What's for you will enter with flow, not friction. This is the gift of divine rebuilding. It teaches you how to receive, not just chase. And yes, there will still be trials. Life doesn't stop throwing tests just because you've chosen the path of healing. But now, You'll handle them differently. You won't panic. You'll pause. You won't react. You'll reflect. You won't collapse. You'll consult your spirit. That's growth. That's grace. That's the result of rising through the ashes with intention and surrender. What you're building is bigger than just a lifestyle. It's a legacy. A story of someone who fell but chose to rise. Someone who lost but chose to love again. Someone who hurt but chose to heal. Someone who found pieces of themselves in places they thought were lost forever. You are that someone. And every step you take now is proof that it's possible. That you can begin again. That you can live again. That from the darkest nights, the brightest dawns emerge. The ashes are not your shame, they are your sign. That the old is gone, and the new is on its way, and you, beloved soul, are the living temple of that miracle. You didn't come this far just to survive. You came this far to transform. You are not here to repeat old cycles under a new disguise. You are here to evolve, to transcend, and to become the clearest expression of your soul's truth. This journey wasn't only about making it through the fire. It was about being purified by it. What's emerging from these ashes is not just a newer version of you, it's a truer one. The rebuilding you've experienced wasn't random. Every shift, every change, every loss had a hidden assignment. You were being recalibrated, recentered, realigned. And now, standing here, after everything that fell apart, you can finally begin to understand this wasn't destruction. This was divine construction in disguise. The strength you now carry is different. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be announced. It's not rooted in pride or defense. It's quiet, steady, unshakable. You've built it in the dark, with no audience, no applause, and no guarantees. And because of that, it cannot be taken from you. It lives in you now, in your decisions, your voice, your energy. As the dust settles and the new takes form, you'll begin to feel it, the return of your joy, not the fleeting kind, but the anchored kind. The kind that doesn't need conditions to bloom, the kind that exists because you finally gave yourself permission to let go of what wasn't yours and receive what always was. This joy is sacred, it's earned, and it's yours, and you'll carry it differently this time. You'll protect it fiercely. You won't waste it on spaces that don't honor you or pour it into people who don't value your presence. You'll move with grace, with discernment, with quiet power. You won't need to prove that you've healed. Your peace will speak for itself. There will be moments when you're tempted to question again, when the old voices try to echo their doubts. But this time, you'll recognize them. You'll meet them with clarity, with boundaries, with truth. You've walked too far to turn back now. You've seen what's possible. You've felt the shift. You've rebuilt your life from the ashes, and you know how much that sacred labor has cost. And because of that, you no longer seek external validation. You've realized that the only true validation comes from within, through connection with your Creator and with your core. And in this space, you walk lighter, you think clearer, you love deeper, you live fuller. You don't fear the fire anymore. You've been through it, you've faced it, and you've emerged with something more precious than comfort: purpose. The fire refined you. It showed you what's eternal and what's temporary. It stripped away the illusions so that only the truth could remain. And now you are walking that truth with every step you take. Others may see your current peace and never know the war you endured to get here. They'll never fully grasp what it took for you to smile again, to trust again, to open your heart again. But you'll know, and that knowing will be your quiet crown, a reminder of everything you've overcome and everything you're still becoming. There's nothing more powerful than a soul who's been through the fire and still chooses light. There's nothing more beautiful than someone who's rebuilt themselves from the ruins without losing their softness. That's who you are. You're not just a survivor. You're a vessel of grace, an embodiment of faith, a living example of what's possible when you surrender to divine timing and trust the process. From this point forward, let your life reflect the truth that you've always been held, guided, and prepared. You didn't rebuild yourself alone. Something greater carried you through it all. And now, you walk not just in healing, but in harmony. Not just in hope, but in power. Not just in strength, but in softness. This is the balance you found. This is the life you're creating. And it doesn't stop here. This new foundation is the beginning of so much more. You'll continue to grow, to shift, to elevate. The rebuilding never ends, because expansion never stops. But now you move forward with tools, with insight, with conviction. You've seen how pain can transform into purpose, and you'll never forget what it taught you. Let this be your reminder: no matter what comes next, you're ready. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've made peace with the unknown. Because you've discovered the unshakable truth that your life is not over. It's just beginning again, on higher ground. The ashes were never the end. They were the evidence that something had to fall so something greater could rise. And now you are that rise. You are the phoenix. You are the renewal. You are the new dawn, glowing softly after a long night. Walk forward. The path is clear, and everything ahead of you is blessed beyond measure. You are being guided. You are being supported. You are being rebuilt, not to return to who you were, but to finally become who you were always meant to be.